Moore didn't fight when they came. Men who knew the law rarely do. They showed papers he'd already seen before. Different names, same seals. He handed over the badge himself. Not as surrender, as record. They kept him in a room without windows. Not a cell, a place meant for waiting. Questions came in pieces. Routes, names, timing. Moore answered what was already known. Nothing more. Somewhere down the corridor, Boots stopped. A door opened. The boy stood still in the shadow, holding a ledger he didn't recognize as important yet. He hadn't been told to be there. He just was. Moore saw him and understood everything at once. He didn't speak, didn't warn, didn't look away. He only nodded once. The men took Moore down a short hall. No words, no witnesses meant to matter. The boy stayed where he was. He heard the door close, and later footsteps returning without weight. Someone crossed Moore's name from a page. That was all. The boy didn't move until the room felt empty again. Only then did he understand. He hadn't watched a man die. He had watched a position disappear. Silas found the ledger where it didn't belong, tucked between freight records. Out of order. One page had been folded twice. Names filled the column, clean handwriting, official spacing. One line was missing its end. Moore E. No date, no cause. Just a thin line drawn through the name. Silas didn't touch the page at first. He sat, counted his breath, thought of a church that never fell, of a badge placed on a table by choice. He closed the ledger and returned it exactly where he'd found it. Outside, a horse waited. Silas mounted without urgency. For the first time, there was nothing left to preserve. He didn't ride toward Harlan. He rode toward what made Harlan possible. The ground no longer mattered. Only the structure did. The boy didn't leave the building right away. He washed his hands, even though they weren't dirty. Outside, the town moved at its usual pace. Wagons passed. Bells rang. Nothing had changed. That was the worst part. He replayed the moment over and over. The nod, the door, the sound that never came back. He told himself he couldn't have done anything. The lie didn't stick. He had chosen to stay still. That night, he didn't sleep. He wrote Moore's name once on a scrap of paper, then again, then folded it until it was unreadable. At dawn, he buried it beneath a fence post where no marker stood, not as forgiveness, as record. He understood something then that Silas hadn't taught him yet. Silence is also a decision. When he mounted his horse, he didn't ride away from Harlan. He rode deeper, toward the place where names stopped being erased quietly. Silas didn't burn anything. Fires drew attention. He copied 3 courthouses, 2 freight offices, 1 church basement no one remembered locking. He learned how land changed hands without moving, how debts survived men, how names were erased cleanly and reused. He didn't steal documents. He returned them in the wrong order. Dates shifted. Margins gained notes they couldn't erase without showing their work. By the time Harlan's men noticed, the system had begun to argue with itself. Couriers carried contradictions. Clerks hesitated. Routes stalled for reasons no one could explain. Somewhere, a ledger refused to balance. Silas worked alone, not because he trusted no one, but because systems collapse faster when they believe they're intact. When he finished, he didn't sign his work. He left one thing behind. A copy of a page with a single name circled. Moore E. Not crossed out. Preserved. For the first time, the structure remembered what it tried to forget. And that memory would spread. Silas recognized the horse before the rider, not by color, by pace. The boy didn't see him at first. He was counting windows, watching who looked away too quickly. Silas stepped into view without reaching for anything. The boy froze, not in fear, in shame. They stood there longer than necessary. No greeting, no questions. Finally, the boy spoke. I saw him. Silas nodded once. I know. The boy swallowed. I didn't move. Silas studied his face. Older now, sharper around the eyes. Neither did the town, Silas said. That wasn't comfort. It was truth. They walked together without deciding who led. At the edge of the street, Silas stopped. You came closer than you should have, he said. The boy looked up. So did you. Silas allowed a breath that almost became a smile. Then we're even. They didn't speak Moore's name again. They didn't have to. Two paths crossed once more, not by chance, but because the ground beneath them was finally giving way. They didn't call it a plan. Plans assume control. This was alignment. They sat in a stable after midnight, lantern low. Doors open enough to hear the street. Silas spread papers on a crate. Not maps. Records. He doesn't stand anywhere, the boy said. He stands on timing, Silas replied. Silas pointed to 3 marks. Freight approvals. Land transfers. Court dates moved quietly. These happen because everyone believes they're alone, Silas said. The boy traced the pattern with his finger. So we don't break them, he said. We make them arrive together. Silas looked at him. Not surprised? Confirmed. If one office questions it, the boy continued, it dies quietly. If 5 do, Silas said, it becomes public. They sat with that. Outside, a wagon rolled past too late for its permit. You'll need to stay inside, Silas said. The boy nodded. That's where it works. And if he notices you? The boy didn't answer right away. Then he'll notice me instead, Silas said. Silence settled. Not fear, precision. Silas gathered the papers. We don't touch Harlan, he said. We let the structure ask why he's still there. The boy closed the ledger he'd been carrying since before Moore died. When? He asked. Silas blew out the lantern. When it can't be stopped.